we segue into the second watch. As much as visual and hearing aids are part of our lives today, implant technologies could become the norm in the future, or should we say, even more so, the norm in the future. They say it's inevitable. That is, the technological enhancing of human beings. But how will or should the ethics of its use be implemented and managed? But to discuss these and other related issues, we have joined us this morning Mr. Rudy Robinson, Senior Industrial Engineer and Lecturer in Technology at the Montego Bay Community College, and Mr. Richard Dennison, former IT Specialist, Senior Systems Analyst for the School of Visual Arts. Good morning to you both.
Good
Morning.
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 Thanks for having me.
Right, right. Good to have you both with us this morning. Let me begin with you, Mr. Dennison. What is the given rationale for making such implants? And as far as you know, how will it really work?
Well, the main push at the moment is for having an ability to aid people who are disabled. So that's really been, a major push behind this technology, the adoption of this technology. So, for example, people who have had spinal injuries, right, and they're unable to send messages from their brains to their, remote body parts. The dream is that, with some kind of brain machine interface, you'll be able to, work around the blockage, if you will, or the interrupt, and be able to send messages to parts of the body that were unable to receive them, or are not able to allow for that person to live their normal life. So that's really the main push and scope for it, and they are making some major advances now in that regard. It's early in the technology; it's still in its nascent phases, but it's easy to envision a day in which something will be implanted, and again implanted just to be more convenient rather than having to carry something around, or to plug into anything. To have this all built into the body so that it would allow for people, again, in the main focus, to be able to deal with and cope with injuries or deficiencies.
And you mentioned implants. So what would that look like? How big is it? How small is it? What is it
Right.
made of?
Right. Well, miniaturization is the key, to getting this to be an efficient way to, again, address these problems. At the moment, typically, they are making entryways into the brain through the skull and implanting electrodes on the surface of the skull to try and read information from the brain. So normally when you walk, you send electrical signals through the nerves, that then are, sent through your nervous system to the muscles to enable, that activity to happen. And so if we are able to read those signals as they emanate from the source of the brain, then we can effectively, program equipment to then carry out those functions. So miniaturization is a must. And again, recent developments have led to new techniques for implanting them, the necessary wiring to read those signals in a way that is less intrusive. So it's just a matter of time before it becomes very effective.
And made of what? What is it that these chips will be made of?
Well, typically wires, circuitry, very thin wires. So this is stuff that is very, very. It has to be again very fine in order to reach the areas that need to be reached and not be an intrusion on the body or something that the body would reject. So right. This is really where the lead into the the competition in this space is going into, is just how to miniaturize the technology, one, how to be able to remotely read the signals sent, and to be able to power it also, with minimal use of batteries or anything like that, so that it can go for a long time. You don't have to constantly be plugging in, and you can live as normal a life as possible, utilizing the technology.
Oh, interesting stuff. Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
what would you consider to be the downside or the possible negative repercussions of such developments?
Okay. As Richard said, the upside is with improving persons with disabilities, persons who need us help. You know, may allow you to see better, allow you to hear better, be stronger. But on the other side, the real technology, the real research is all military to produce super soldiers. If
Mm,
you can if you can, if your eye is like your cell phone, you can stay 10 miles away and see into somebody's house with X-ray vision or some technology like that, right? That's a super soldier, and that's where the real push is. That's where the real development is currently taking place. It's all about the military, and there's developments going on. As Richard said, there's that interface. You interface uh, electronics with the human brain, and you can also remotely monitor what is going on. So the things that we see on sci-fi movies, this is what is happening right now as we
Yeah,
speak.
right. So the downside, what you think with some of the negatives that we need to be careful about?
Well, if you have electronics implanted into you, then you can be monitored remotely by other persons.
Oh,
People can stay thousands of miles away and know and watch and hear and see what you're doing. And I think that's a negative. It's invasive. It's into your private space, you know,
mm,
and that's inherently built into it.
all right.
Well, you
Any
could.
more?
So if you want me to jump in here a little bit,
Yeah, we're
I didn't know
coming
if I was
to
that's okay. Okay, sure.
we're coming to you after the break, Mr. Dennison. We're
Okay.
actually near to break. Any more, Mr. Robinson, before the break? We have less than a minute.
Well, there's always going to be the moral and ethical issues, especially amongst. Can you, for example, man, God made man perfect.
Okay, tell you what, stick a pin right there.
Yes.
We're going to come back after the break to discuss that.
Okay.
Listeners, we're up on a break.
Rise with the sun and face the day with some Lasco instant chocolate. Pull a pack, stir it up. Hot or cold, enjoy the chocolatey goodness any time of the day and unleash instant smiles, instant happiness.
Already 20 years the Cameron there? Hace 20 años en Jamaica? Thank you, our valued customers and industry partners. You made it possible.
Come celebrate this significant milestone with us at any of our 3 properties: Royal Decameron Club Caribbean, Montego Beach, and Cornwall Beach.
Call us today at 876-973-5600 or visit us at www.decameron.com. Let's celebrate the next 20 years together at Decameron's all-inclusive hotels and resorts.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Dylan Toussaint, and in this, the second half of the second watch, we are discussing the whole matter of the inevitability and ethics of becoming superhuman. And in so doing, we have online Mr. Richard Dennison, former IT specialist, senior systems analyst for the School of Visual Arts, and Mr. Rudy Robinson, senior industrial engineer and lecturer in technology at the Montego Bay Community College. Before the break, Mr. Robinson, you're telling us about some of the possible negatives of all of this technology.
Yes. The We Jamaicans, we have our ethical issues. We're, a very spiritual people, and we have concerns about. Um, as far as we're concerned, God made us perfectly. We don't need any enhancements. It's only if we have, defects where we would want enhancements, as Richard was saying. But it's not going to stop there. The real technology, it's military. It's about superhumans, making humans better than God made us, and
Yes,
that's I think the biggest negative.
right. Mr. Dennison, you wanted to jump in?
Sure. Well, a little, I guess, nuance there. Consider if you had to travel from Kingston to Montego Bay and you're to only use your human ability and you had business to do and you're in competition with somebody else who suddenly has a car. If we don't adopt technology to address these, needs, then we're going to get left behind. Think of the Amish, for example, in the United States, right? They made a solemn vow to, not incorporate technology in their lives, but as such, and again, this is a personal decision, obviously, but you'd be left behind. And there's that consequence to consider. As regards the ethics, this is an important thing to address now because, of course, people will take advantage of technology, especially given the situation that we will be in competition with technology because robots and automation are taking over and enhancing a lot of work. And again, in the competitive nature of how we earn a living, to not adopt it would mean that we could, pay a price, right? And think about, any technology that's come about. Just to reference the comment from Sylvia about no chip insertion and she doesn't, want a battery and such, and she's not a robot. This is true. However, you will be competing with robots. And this is one of the arguments being made now that, there's going to be a need to enhance human ability in order to stay relevant in the workplace. So just something to consider. Of course, the ethics too is that, we may develop a situation where one, group of humans with the necessary resources will be able to enhance themselves in ways that make them more competitive over humans who cannot afford that, right? So you may have, people or certain jobs demanding workers or showing preference for workers with enhancement, again, to fill the bottom line and to increase, productivity and whatnot. So this may be a thing that no matter our opinion of it, we may not be able to avoid it for the world to continue progressing and advancing as it has to date.
Yes. I'm seeing a comment here in the form of a question. How do we know that's not already being done? For example, a visit to the dentist or doctor to do an operation. How we know that those implants aren't already being done? Mr. Dennison, you want to tackle that?
Implanting technology people without their consent.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, don't think about technology having to literally go into your body. You're being monitored through your cell phone. I mean, consider what life would be for many people if you were to take away their cell phones permanently. The encroachment of technology is subtle but pervasive, right? And we don't realize it. We are, even what we're doing now, right, is technology enhanced. So, the idea that we shouldn't utilize technology because God made us a certain way, and thing, maybe, too stretching the idea a little too far, right? I think God gave us our minds to be creative, and we are creatively using what's around us to do better and to, because the modern world, as we know it, would not exist. I mean, consider all the benefits of being able to go to the same doctor, right? For him to use the tools he used to, improve your health and make you better. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. So with that, but of course we have to be careful because, the same doctor could do harm. The same car you're driving could knock somebody down. To everything there's a good side and a bad side. And it's inherent upon us to emphasize the good and to, mitigate the bad. So this is just the course of development. No society in the history of man from our, beginnings to today has ever remained exactly the same and static. We've always sought to make improvements, to adapt and to adjust to the pros and the cons of what we employ to make our lives better.
Yeah. And Mr. Robinson, you want to add anything to that?
I agree with what Richard has said.
Mm.
However, I would argue that we already have advanced knowledge of nanobot technology, which is tiny little robots that you can put in your bloodstream. And there are those who would already argue that people may already have these nanobots in them, received through vaccinations and things like that. And these nanobots can be used to control you and have you do things which you normally would not do. And it's the knowledge is out there, the technology is out there. It's who controls the technology is what we have to be worried about. Not the technology itself. Technology is fine, you know, but who
Yeah.
controls it and what are they using it for and what's their objective and goals? That's where we
Yeah.
need to be careful.
Yeah.
And there's
The comments are coming in fast and furious. Concerns about athletes beginning to be scanned. I mean, how would we regulate, the athletes not knowing who has received implants as against others who have not? Mr. Robinson?
uh, well, an athlete's an athlete's greatest enhancement would be something which would improve blood flow during competition. And right now, that is being done mostly through chemical ways. You know, a lot of chemicals are used to you can spike up an athlete and they'll run a race in 2 seconds faster than anybody else. and it will be very hard. You can detect the chemical traces of those chemicals in some cases, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for example, the muscles, you can use technology to enhance the contraction and relaxation of muscles so that they go faster. You know, that would be harder to detect.
Mm-hmm.
So there are all kind of things which can happen, which would be very hard to trace. You know.
Yeah. I don't know if Mr. Dennis, you want to comment on that question that came in a while ago? Concern? You are muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Scanning people to see if they're enhanced. Well, I'm not aware of the technology, and again, using nanobots or anything like that. Right now, being able to confer advantage to humans. The current state or the latest development is simply just even getting the interfaces implanted to begin with. Elon Musk has a company called Neuralink, and they're rushing to do this, and they just partnered with another company called Synchron, which has actually made a major advance in this regard. So I wouldn't say we have to be afraid of that just yet. The day will come. The day will come when this will be a major concern. And this is why the World Economic Forum kind of raised the issue in a recent article and is saying that, now that we see this on the horizon, we need to start talking about the ethics, putting in place, the framework and the structures to ensure that we do our best to make sure that this technology serves the betterment of mankind. And again, as I explained earlier, we do our best to mitigate, the negative sides of things. Because there's no pure technology that's all good. We're always going to face this concern and problem. It's just up to us as citizens to be active, play active roles in our countries and pressure our governments to make sure that they do right by us and, again, address these concerns.
Yes, and I'm happy you went back to the whole matter of ethics because I want to ask you, gentlemen, if you were asked to help formulate a policy in regards to the ethical and the safety considerations of such technology, what would you include? What are the things that you would emphasize in that regard? Beginning with you, Mr. Dennison.
Right. I would say we need to emphasize, equal access to the technology once it's developed so that we don't, again, as I sort of alluded to earlier, have, a separate class of people enhanced who, because they can afford it, are able to enjoy this advantage vis-a-vis those who cannot. Because, of course, that's immediately going to have an effect in the society writ large. So that, for sure, is one of the top concerns. And also transparency in the work and the research so that we know what people are doing, right? And we can supervise and regulate the activity. Yes.
Equal access and transparency. All right. Mr. Robinson, what's your take on that? What would you want to include or emphasize in that policy?
We're probably going to have to also invest equally in technology to monitor what is being done and have monitoring governing bodies which are monitoring the technologies out there to see that it performs as it says it's going to perform and doesn't go so it's outside of that boundary. So it's a question of creating bodies to monitor what is going on technologically, which is kind of what we do for most technologies right now. We have governing bodies out there to control what is allowed and not allowed. So it's going to be more of the same, more of that.
Anything else?
I would just say this: don't be afraid, to be open to the idea of adopting technology. We're already doing this. The one thing that struck me was how often people wear and keep in their Bluetooth headphones. When Bluetooth first came out, I used to be surprised at that, because my take was, well, use it when you need it, pull it out. And I'd see men, especially, walking around with their Bluetooth headphones in constantly, even when they were not making calls. And if you want to consider something implantable, that's, one more step from in your ears into inside your head, right? And, if you're not afraid of that, and you understand the advantages and the benefits of that, well, the rest of the technology kind of plays right into that sphere. Again, we just have to be vigilant to make sure that this thing is monitored and, transparent and regulated. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm seeing here a comment in regards to penalties. How would you, in formulating that policy, include the penalties? What type of penalties you think would suffice? Mr. Robinson?
When I used to make chips with Intel, built into the chip is the ability to disable, right? And you could disable a chip so that it couldn't function, or some of its features would not work. And you can use that capability to have penalties in technology, in implanted technology, where you disable aspects of that technology remotely, right, as penalty. So if the provider or the user goes outside of certain guidelines, you can actually do that type of thing.
So just to add to that point, that was actually a commentary made in that regard by an expert at the World Economic Forum who said, think about it, people are taking pills. They could implant technology into the pills you take to know that you took them on time, and to know if you didn't take them, to more accurately, say, inform your medical provider as to whether you are taking your pills on time or not. But the remote access thing is a troublesome thing in the sense that, they can currently disable, say, Tesla cars remotely or control them, right? Imagine you driving your car and some, person with ill intent steers you off the cliff, or, runs you into opposing traffic. So again, with all these technologies, there's a side that is, useful to us, married to the side that, exposes us to some danger. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is, ladies and gentlemen. There's no pure technology, and we just have to do our best and work with what is. And hopefully, the best will win the day.
Well, that's a fitting note on which to end, gentlemen. Of
Richard,
course,
do you have a Tesla?
There are those,
No Tesla.
there are those who believe we're going to self-destruct if we continue all of this technology. But hey, there we go. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this morning. Have a safe and productive day.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me once again.
Thank you, listeners, for being with us. Yes. For information or get copies of this program, call our production department at 876-968-95967. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and our guests. Please join Mr. Stokely Marshall next week as he continues to look at the issues of the day. I'm Dylan Toussaint, reminding you to be purposeful, faithful, thankful, and of course, watchful, as I hand you back to Love in the Morning with DJ Parchment.